Welcome to Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge, a podcast for tech executives. We provide strategies and tactics to help executives succeed and further their career goals. With interviews from industry experts, leaders, and innovators, this show will surely get you on the edge of your seat with thought-provoking advice on how to stay ahead of the competition. Welcome to Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge, a podcast exploring the latest trends, strategies, and insights in technology leadership. We'll discuss the most important topics and ideas shaping the industry today, from emerging technologies to digital transformation and beyond. Join us to learn all the juicy secrets of tech leaders, their biggest successes and failures, on our quest for gaining that all-important technology edge. Are you ready? Let's get started. Today's guest is Raj Goodman Anand, founder of Goodman Lantern, a content marketing agency dedicated to helping businesses grow by leveraging the power of content creation. With a background in engineering, Raj has founded 3 startups, raised capital, and taken one venture from inception to acquisition. His experience spans not only startups, but also large and mid-sized organizations. He also won Business Week's Europe's Young Entrepreneur in 2007 and has been named one of Revolution Magazine's 50 most influential people in digital in 2009. Raj is passionate about promoting gender equality and women's economic empowerment, with more than 80% of Goodman Lantern's team being women. Welcome to the show, Raj.
Thank you for having me on, Mike. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So, let's talk about content creation. How should businesses leverage the power of content creation? What's your high level advice on that?
Well, let me just kind of start by saying that I'm an engineer, as you read out earlier.
Right.
And I discovered marketing just after I was doing research in AI. I met somebody from the US who were visiting a university in the UK, and they told me the power of social media. That's how I got into marketing. I started to build my MySpace clone. MySpace, people who don't know, it's the old people's Facebook. And so I really got into social media, and then that led to writing a book. And then I got into so I worked for a tech company, basically for telecom and insurance market, and helped them grow from 7.5 million to 45 million in revenue, the back of great content and storytelling. That's when I thought, okay, I can do this for B2B companies. Let me start my own organization. It was 9 years back, and since then we help a whole lot of companies across the world, the largest tech companies in telecom, in insurance, in fintech, in medical sciences, and in defense with the content creation. And actually, it is a gift that keeps giving. If done correctly, it just helps you to really grow that opportunity and do different things. One is thought leadership, and number 2 is visibility through SEO. So these are 2 different opportunities to really power through the marketing, and content is a big part of it.
Cool. So a lot of people say they don't have the time that it takes to create the content they need in order to, say, establish themselves as a thought leader. Do you have any advice on how they can, get past that roadblock?
So, like everything in this world, as business owners, as managers, it's all about delegating and elevating people. If we can't do everything on our own, we have to delegate and elevate. Bring in the right people, maybe in the form of agencies, freelancers, to help us, because there's a lot to be done. And if we start to get bogged down working in the business and not on the business, we will lose this opportunity. So, if anybody who says they don't have time, yes, it's because content is not meant to be done all in-house. It's meant to be delegated. As you as a manager, you as the owner, meant to build the big plans for your team to follow, and then them to execute on that plan. That's how you build a big company, basically.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I hear my wife and I co-own a VA agency together, and one of the things we're constantly hearing is, I don't have time for that. I'm going to have to do it myself. And then I don't have time for it because I can't afford to hire, outside help. And we say, so how is it any worse if you were to, in my opinion, hiring an expert is always the best way to go. I mean, obviously, if you're looking for help, that's the best way. But if you're going to do it yourself, you might as well hire an inexpensive virtual assistant who has the same skills as you do, for content creation, and let them create the content. Then at least it's getting done. Too many people just don't get it done, because they refuse to let go. I mean, I've learned myself, like we have a podcast network that we run, and our VA does all of the content creation for social media for that. And we have a rule in our business that no content that goes public facing goes out without being reviewed by at least one other person. And I've learned that I don't, with her now, I mean, it's been a year, I don't have to go through it with a fine tooth comb anymore. I just have to give it a quick look. Are all you kind of have little checkpoints in your head. Is the color scheme correct? Does the message match what our mission and values are? How's the caption match with the message? All right, great. This all works. Cool. Approved. Used to take me an hour to 2 hours to approve her stuff. Now it's just, snap, because she knows what she's doing. So I think delegation is, I think it's something where people, especially tech executives, we know what we know, and we don't necessarily trust our team to do things, and we really should. So, so let's talk about like what does your company do for clients? Like, what's a typical engagement like working with you?
Yeah, sure. So we typically work with um, high-tech companies. So our clients tend to be uh, bigger organizations that are doing about 100 million to a 5 billion in revenue. Some of them doing even more than that, for example. And where we can help them really is to think about the different areas: content strategy, content execution, and then content distribution. So strategy basically is thinking the big plans, as you were talking about earlier. What are your values? What are your competitors? What is that you're looking to kind of promote? And then we create a strategy around that alongside the brand strategy, the marketing strategy. That's the first thing we'll do if they don't have that ready. Then we'll think about, okay, what content types are to be prepared. Is it going to be white papers? Is it going to be ebooks? Website copy, social media copy. So we'll help them create that, and we have writers and editors. Some senior people who understand the market really well. The editors are the first point of contact between the customer and Goodman Lantern, and then they have a team of writers, animators, videographers, and then we have distribution, whereby we can do that through press release, social media, and SEO, which is a big part of what we do as well, is to really help with the ranking. A lot of our clients find us through SEO. So as they say in the UK, we eat our own dog food. We want to make sure that we're promoting ourselves that way. And exactly that is one thing, which initially we didn't know the value of SEO, but it's one thing, it's a gift that keeps giving, just because it's so powerful. Once you rank well, it takes a lot of effort for somebody else to come and take your ranking away. But we're constantly adding and creating more content and making sure that we stay up in the ranks and rank for more keywords. So it's all about that process of helping us being discovered organically. That's what we do as a company.
Yeah, years back, I worked with an SEO agency, and we used to tell customers that two people they'd ask him, why is SEO so important, and we would tell them, two people could have the exact same product, like literally the same product, and depending upon how well you do your SEO, one of those two companies could do really, really well, and the other might not. And yet they're selling the same product, and so it's kind of like trying to get eyes on your content. That's like the key, right? I mean, and you make a great point. Once you spend, one of the reasons why it's nice to spend the time to get the ranking is that it's barring making some stupid mistakes, it's very difficult for someone to take your ranking away. In fact, I pretty much think the only way you're going to lose your ranking is if you do something to go against Google's policies, and they slap you. That's pretty much the only way you're going to lose your rankings at that point.
Yeah,
So
or if Google changes the algorithm, but then you can get it back on because you know how you got in the first instance. And this is vastly different from, say, advertisements. Google ads, Facebook ads. You are ranking well on ads as long as you're paying them. You stop paying them, and then that's it. That's the end of the inquiries coming in. So it's a big difference. I mean, it works with some industries, and we often say it's a marketing mix which works. But if I had like $100, I'll put majority of that in SEO. That's a better return on investment, better
yeah,
ROI.
I agree with you. I think that's a great thing to use. Like out of $100, I think I'd probably put $80 of it into SEO and $20 of it into good copywriting on my homepage, especially. I have a habit with my companies of right away addressing the pain points on the web page. But if I can't get people there, they never see any of that. So that's why I would spend more on SEO. So I think we're definitely in agreement there. But do you utilize your SEO principles in the social media content that you put out?
Yeah, so there's a thing called SMO, social media optimization, or it's basically techniques to kind of help you rank better. So there's an element, there's a different science and art behind the social media marketing. What keywords you use, maybe hashtags you use, what works better to be adding links to third-party sites or keep the people in-house in the same platform. Should you be adding images, videos? What's the impact of that on your thing being displayed on the home page or the news feed, for example? So there's again a science behind that. And today with the growth of AI, I think social media content production is probably easier and faster, but there's still a science behind creating the right form of content. And it's about looking you know, at the end of the day, all the content we produce and we recommend producing is based on a strategy. And the strategy should be such that it actually gives you a unique voice and unique insights. You don't have that, the algorithms or the AI looking at your content by Facebook, by LinkedIn, or by Google, for example, can catch if you're authentic or you just copy paste job basically. And avoid that. There has to be a unique voice. Only then they will push you ahead and you'll be discovered. And that's the way the human beings are as well. If you just hear the same stuff, you don't care about that person. The person has something unique to talk about. You just know what they're saying and consume that more and more so.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually I get a lot of through my coaching clients, I get a lot of requests like, should I read this book or this book? And a lot of times people write books for authority only. And so the
Mm.
content is just regurgitated. It's the same content you see everywhere. But then every once in a while you find that person who approaches that same topic, but puts their experience and their spin on it. And I always recommend that over any other book because at least you're learning something new. There's a differentiator there that tells you this person knows a couple of extra things maybe that you can execute that push your business forward. I think that's huge. I mean, I always find it interesting because you hear from people, oh, it doesn't matter if I post on social media or not. I don't see any effect. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean what they think it means. They think that it means social media is irrelevant, but the reality is it might mean, and it probably means that their social media content was irrelevant to their client. Like if you're not putting out the right content, then you're not going to attract the people that you want to attract. You're not going to keep their interest, and they're not going to engage with you at all. So I find that to be a really common issue. So you mentioned a great point. Links and like videos, keeping someone on the inside of the platform, let them go to the outside of the platform. And I know like most of the social media platforms, like for instance, you to upload your video natively to their platform because they want to keep you there. What other types of content have you found are similar to that, where they want you to stay on site, so it's better to upload the content there?
I mean, one thing I've noticed is, for example, is like Twitter really likes threads, for example. I mean, I've noticed that, like long threads basically are series of Twitter posts. They call them tweet storms, for example. There's an element of that. And again, these are the social media platforms are like, cookie monsters. Cookie monsters like cookies, and social media monsters like content. So the more you can feed the monster with the right kind of content, the more you'll be pushed up. And I think at the end of the day, what they really want is they want you to create content which is gonna get the eyeballs, get the likes, get the interaction going. And for that to happen, it has to be sticky content. It has to be something which is interesting, which is different. And that's why if you look at the algorithms, they're all trying to do is to figure out what's unique, what's the unique about the tone, the voice, the style, the content itself. Is it new? And if it is new because it's been liked and shared, they want to push that even further. So at the end of the day, it's not rocket science. It really is as simple as creating that content which is unique and has a voice, is bringing some value to the end consumer. But to produce that kind of content is hard because there's millions of people at the same time talking about something very similar. So how do you have a unique perspective on it? And that requires a good strategy. That's the first step in the journey of creating good content piece.
So then you would say that the planning ahead, before you even create one piece of content, the planning part is probably the most important aspect to getting eyes on your content.
100%. I'm an engineer. In engineering, we always taught like you spend half your time planning and then executing. Because then the plans are correct. I mean, if you build a building, the first thing you do is you do the surveys, you get an architect involved, you look at the topography, you look at the plans of the building, you actually build the whole plans first, and then you go to create the building. Imagine if you just built the building and then you have the plans later. I mean, what good is that, right? So it has to follow the right procedure, the right steps, and the steps really should be planning first. Plan, make sure you put all different scenarios, see how you're different, what adds value to the end consumer, who's the end consumer, having the persona of the end consumer, and then creating the next steps.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree with you on that. I think planning for anything, I mean, it's the key to success. I mean, if you made a great point. I love that. Are you going to just go build the house, or you're going to plan how the house is going to be built before you build the house? And obviously it's the second way, not the first way, because if you just go and build the house, I can't imagine what you would come up with. It'd be crazy. So I find it interesting. In your bio, you talk about promoting gender equality and that 80% of your team is women. What brought you to that situation?
Well, a lot of different things. I mean, all triggered by having my wife went through a bit of a health challenge when she was fairly young. Um, and it made me rethink our lives and the what we're creating on planet Earth. I want to leave a legacy, and I thought a lot about this legacy and what I want to do. And later on in my life, I had a daughter. She's now 2 years old, and I often thought like, well, when I was growing up in my school and then at my university, the number of women who went through into technology have been decreasing, as in like they were more at school, they were less at university, and then they were less at work. And I'm like, there's some sort of challenge there with women in technology and tech marketing. And so I thought, well, for the sake of my daughter when she joins the workforce and other women, what can I do to change that? And I made a mission of my company to empower women in technology and marketing. So much so, as you mentioned earlier, 80% plus the team members are women, and it's giving them a platform. We give 1% of our revenue away to promoting women by giving them scholarships, for example, and we're training team members on our dime to train them in not only in developed countries like UK, US, Norway, and New Zealand, for example, South Africa, but also like developing countries like South Africa, India, Philippines. We're hiring women there as well, just to give them a platform to kind of raise their opportunity. And the aim really is to help grow their lifestyle and opportunities to work with interesting projects. So we're doing whatever we can from our side, and not only just talking about it, but actually making changes to the way we hire, who we hire, give them a platform.
Do you ever have people question like whether you're leaving the best candidate on the table by focusing more on gender equality than on actual qualifications?
So the way we kind of work as a company is that we have a very fair interview process. We give obviously men and women an opportunity, but if we feel that there's a we do a lot of testing, just like thorough testing, not only the skills but also their mindset, their psychology, and how they present themselves. And if we find that women has an opportunity to better uh, by maybe a bit more training, then we'll give her the opportunity to do so. So we still hire the best candidates, but we also, because we are so mission focused, we have more women applying anyway. In fact, I think we have probably a lot more women applying than most of the companies, and so we actually have a pool of I was 95% plus women applicants to our company. It's only natural that it happens. So for
Yeah,
us, it's a bit easier to select from that.
it makes sense. I mean, like I utilize a process called top grading for my hiring, and it's mainly because you may have you're an engineer, and like as a software engineer myself, I mean there's positions that may pay 140K US a year. I might only be able to offer 90K US a year for that position. So does that mean that I'm not going to be able to hire good talent? Well, no, it doesn't mean that. What it means is I have my pool gets smaller, and I'm looking for the best people within that pool. And I'm going into it knowing that I'm not necessarily going to hire like the top developer on the market right now, but I'm hiring somebody who's going to fit with my company, has the right personality, has the right values, and is coachable and can learn. I think those things become more important. So it's kind of sounds like you're doing the same thing, only you're ending up hiring women. And it makes sense that if you have 80% of your team is women, you're going to attract a bigger pool of women applicants as well. Because I mean, I'm going to apply where I think I have the best opportunity of getting the job. And if you have a track record of having more women on staff, I think that's going to attract more women. And I think it's a great thing. I mean, because women, especially in the pay arena, there's not a lot of equity there, and it's really unfair. I mean, there's I mean, honestly, there's positions I've worked with, both men and women, that I think women are just way better at because of the empathy level and just the way women are wired. It's just different. Then there's positions I think where men are probably more likely to be better at that position. But the reality is, we're all human beings and everyone's slightly different. So you can't say every woman is going to be great for this role and every man's going to be great for this role. People are different. So I hear it all the time. Oh, this role needs more aggressive person. I know some really aggressive women who would handle that position better than the guy they hired in the position. But I just found that interesting because you don't usually see a company, number one, with 80% women, and number two, advertising it. That's just not something people do. And I think it's great that you do. I'm really impressed by that, actually. So
Yeah.
kudos to you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I think sometimes we need to take a stand and say that, what might be perceived to be a man's job can only be done by a gender. There's nothing, in my opinion, nothing like that. There is an opportunity to train the right mindset. And at the end of the day, when we hire somebody, we're hiring them based on our core values. So if they have the right values in their system and they want to grow in that role, they will find an opportunity. And I believe in that. So I've seen that the right coaching, you can bring in somebody who's a 90K salary to be maybe 200K in value because they believe
Yeah.
in the mission.
Well, and you're identifying key metrics that work for your business, and that people who has those key metrics, intrinsically built into them, and they're coming at me. I know it's not entirely related, but it actually is in a way. I look at it like this: you look at what's most important to success, and then you hire those people that have those things. It's like, years ago, I used to be a coach for roller hockey, and at this one particular place, everyone would clamor for certain like star kids. I always looked at the kids whose parents brought them to practice on time, games on time, didn't make excuses for not showing up to practice, because I knew that if they showed up to practice, I could teach them to play hockey. But if they don't show up to practice, I don't care if you're the biggest superstar ever, you're not going to learn anything. You're just going to stay stagnant. And I used to get laughed at during the draft, because I'd pick in the first round, I'd pick some guy that other people might not pick till the 7th round. But I won a lot of championships because my kids showed up, they played as hard as they could, and they had things that I saw in them that made them into winners. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you on that. I think it's really interesting. So let's talk about like content execution. We're going to go back to the content strategy a bit. So you mentioned that part of content execution is the type of content to distribute, and you listed out white papers, ebooks, etc. I would imagine that changes depending on the goals of the company you're working with, correct?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Because I would imagine, like, if you, for instance, one place I could see white papers being really helpful is like with a supplement company, or somebody who's selling some kind of tonic or whatever, because they're going to give you the scientific research behind what that product and whether it makes sense. And so a white paper is going to be the good way to do that. A little image isn't going to convey that message, right? But then other people, a white paper might be overkill. So, it's just a matter of determining what works for them. And then for distribution, do you have any particular tools that you recommend to help businesses like streamline that process for them?
Yeah. Just before we go into distribution, I just want to mention that most of our work is with B2B companies, and most companies we work with are in technology sector, high tech, and
Mhm.
almost all of them would need a white paper, one form or the other.
Sure.
Was launching tech products or services, and that needs to be explained properly and explain the benefits to the end customer, educate them. So it tends to be top of the funnel education or middle of the funnel, like educating them about the actual offering of their service. That's the typical space. So that's really important, but there's other stuff as well to supplement that, and other ones like web pages and social media, for example, and case studies, which is a gold mine for converting people into paying customers, which is what we discovered. But then talking about distribution, and that tends to be of different types. One sort is press releases. It's a great way to do press release, for example. It not only helps with being picked up by the press, but also with SEO as well, because now this distribution actually happens digitally. Then there's social media, which is the obvious one. There's SEO, for example. And then there's also distribution to publications. So there are specialist publications for telecom, for banking, and to distribute the content to them also is a very powerful way to get picked up by big media, which then gets republished by other small media trying to copy their content, as well as people who look reading this content on a daily basis or weekly basis. So there's a lot of different style of distribution of content. All depends on the company's strategy, industry, and their budgets, basically.
Oh, that makes sense. I think certain platforms are better than others for whatever, depending on your business that you're doing. For too long, too many businesses just like flooded social media with their content without any thought to like well, are even my people on Facebook, for instance? It's a good example. Or I even get asked on LinkedIn all the time, like, where are you doing your prospecting for clients? And I always say where I find my clients spending their time, which for me is LinkedIn. That's where I'm going to focus my efforts. Why scream at an empty room, right? Like, if they're not there and you keep yelling, you're not going to attract any business that way. That's kind of interesting. So, so you're working with big companies, higher tech. What do you find is like the biggest challenge for your business in working with companies like that?
Well, obviously, for any large company to work with them, you need to showcase your talent, your understanding. It's a longer sales cycle. Um, but also the other flip side is that also that they stick with you longer. There's a long-term commitment, there's a budget there. So, you know, I was taught as a kid that good things come to people who are patient and who are happy to put in that hard work and graft. And that's so true with larger, especially in B2B, that it's a longer sales cycle. It's very painful, and in that sales cycle, something can go wrong in any part of it. But you need to build up the right skill set amongst our team members, the right procedures in place to make sure that we're helping our clients to decide their partner, the supplier. And that took a lot of time and effort to get it right. I think the first few times we did it, we probably didn't do a great job at it. But then over time, we've learned how to help our clients, how to offer them something which is going to be valuable for them, or to help them make the right selection. And that's also helped us shrink the time as well quite a bit, but also give them value at every stage. So yeah, it's just painful. It's hard, but we are in this game to really make a mark and really go and do big things. And for that, we need to put in the hard work and be patient. And it's not for everybody.
Awesome. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation. I really appreciate you being here. We've learned a lot about what you guys do and how we do it better. Why don't you let people know where they can find you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, sure. So Mike, likewise, thanks for the opportunity.
No
To
problem.
find me, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Raj Goodman Anand on LinkedIn, or on Twitter, I'm Raj Anand. So yeah, do look me up and drop me a message. I'd love to hear from people. So please say.
Awesome. I'll make sure that gets dropped into the show notes and the video description so people don't have to like scramble or write it all down. They can just click and go. But definitely connect with Raj. He obviously has a lot of great insights to offer. But thanks for tuning in to Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. We hope you've had a great time with us today, learning everything you need to know to stay ahead of the technology curve. And remember, be curious, be updated on all the latest trends, and show them who's the boss. Until next time, we'll be back with plenty more techie tips and tricks so you can stay on top of your game.